Hi everyone, my name is Larissa Gill. I am the Program Assistant for Young Adult Outreach here at FCNL, and I'm going to talk to you all today about how my life is secretly a mess. Because in all seriousness, I wrote this speech on a flight on my way to a hotel that I booked at 1 o'clock that same morning. And you know what? If I hadn't told you that, you might not have picked up on the completely stress-induced typing that produced this speech. But unfortunately, I was always this way. When I was in college, I had nights where I would sleep lying totally stiff in my pantsuit for whatever event I had the next day. And why was I sleeping in a pantsuit instead of pajamas? Because I definitely stayed up way too late that night finishing an assignment, and I wanted to get enough sleep. Didn't have time to get ready in the morning. When I was in high school, I worked tirelessly day and night to remain number one in my class. This meant a limited social life and countless late nights, which often resulted, again, in no sleep. But when I would tell my friends and my classmates that I was having these problems, that I needed to complain, I would get the response of, "But you're Larissa Gill. You'll get it done." And I always looked at them with this blank stare because I thought, do you even know what that means? Being Larissa Gill meant staying up all night. It meant crying over assignments. It meant skipping lunch in order to finish my homework in the library. Apparently, I managed to hide all of this well enough, however, but for this reason, I struggled to accept that it was okay to admit I was having a hard time. I struggled to accept that there is no one way to achieve what you want to achieve. And I struggled to accept that you don't have to be perfect in order to succeed. And I'll be honest with you all, I wasted so much time growing up trying to be perfect. And for this reason, I took every setback as a complete failure. I got my first bad grade in college, and I thought, well, I guess I should just drop out of school, right? I got rejected from my first choice internship my junior year of college, and I thought, well, I guess I'm never going to get a job. That's fine too. But every step of the way, life managed to prove me wrong. That bad grade forced me to change my study habits. That rejection forced me to seek out other opportunities, and the internship that I did end up completing ended up being the best experience of my entire life. I recently shared some of these thoughts with my supervisor here at FCNL, and she sent me a link to a blog written by a Quaker woman which said, "Way has never opened in front of me, but a lot of way has closed behind me, and that's had the same guiding effect." It's hard to believe sometimes. In one simple sentence, she managed to capture the sentiments that I have spent my last 22 years developing and attempting to internalize. By embracing the imperfections, I have learned to embrace whatever is thrown at me. I've learned to embrace the messiness of life. Now, if you had asked me a couple years ago if I could imagine myself working for a lobbying organization, I would have said no. If you had asked me a couple years ago if I could imagine myself working for a Quaker organization, I would have said, I'm not sure what that means, but I agree with everything on the website, so maybe. As I progressed through my college career, a lot of way closed behind me. But as this Quaker woman said, I let that guide me anyway, and I learned what my true strengths are. That amazing internship that I mentioned earlier, ended up being an opportunity to work as a translator for recently arrived immigrants in Santiago, Chile. I worked to give these people a voice as they navigated the immigration system in a language that they were not familiar with, in a country that they were not familiar with. It was work that left me feeling inspired, knowing that I could empower those around me. Now, by the time this internship ended, I had finally learned what I'm good at: people, connecting with them, and listening to them, giving those around me a voice. I would not have learned this about myself if I hadn't embraced rejection and if I hadn't embraced my own mess. I was given the opportunity to work in young adult outreach at FCNL at the perfect moment in my life. A few years ago, I probably wouldn't have taken the job, let alone applied for it. A few years ago, I didn't necessarily believe in way. I thought I had it all figured out. I don't. But taking this position with FCNL was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I not only made the decision to work for an organization full of the most kind and inspiring people, but I made the decision to join FCNL's young adult family, a community of the craziest but most genuinely passionate people you will ever meet. A community that lifts up its members and says, I hear you, and I care. As I move forward and I continue to understand my own voice and my own place in this messy world, I feel privileged to work with an organization that gives hundreds of young adults around the country the strength and resources to make their voices and their stories heard. I feel privileged to be part of a network of people that support each other as we all continue to find our way. Thank you.